Welcome back to my channel. I'm glad that you found this video somehow. I'm using a cartoon instead of raw footage, and I am commenting on Real Housewives of Potomac Season 1, Episode 3. So please watch the other videos on this channel. Feel free to comment on those discussions, because I brought up some points that I think are pretty interesting. And let's get into episode 3. Let's first talk about Katie, because I see a lot of comments on YouTube channels and online about Katie. And what is interesting is to see women interpreting Katie's behavior as begging a man to marry her, when she's not begging at all. She's making a demand and stating that she wants marriage, and she has stated that repeatedly. And I think what many women need to understand is stating your expectations repeatedly does not constitute begging. What it means is that you're letting a man know that your expectations are non-negotiable. Now, when you get pregnant and become a baby mama, and then you're hostile or resentful that this man isn't committed to you, to me, that's what women who aren't very empowered do. Because if you really want a commitment with a man, then you make those expectations very clear, and you don't get pregnant by somebody who doesn't understand what your expectations are. And if your expectations are to be a wife, then you don't get pregnant first. And so I think Katie is going about things the way that she feels is mature and adult, and she has made it clear that she wants marriage. And this man may not want marriage with a woman who already has 3 young children, but clearly he is trying to adapt to that role, because he seems to be involved in her life, involved with the children, and understanding what that dynamic is going to entail. Katie's ex-husband is probably in the picture and is just not going to be on the television show, because that's just not something that many people would do, particularly somebody from his background. So I think that her boyfriend is being very smart in just giving it time to see what that dynamic is going to be like. And a lot of men who have waited to get married and who are his age may not want a ready-made family. There's a reason why men sometimes wait a certain age to get married and begin a family. And so I think he's doing the right thing by taking his time and making sure that this whole equation is what he wants. And that doesn't mean he's stringing her along. It just means that he has probably communicated to her that he does want a serious relationship, a committed relationship, that he is interested in being a husband one day, but he's still trying to figure this all out and really understand if this is going to be a lifetime fit for them. And there's nothing wrong with that. So, you know, the narrative that I see online about Katie begging a man to marry her is simply not true. None of her conversation is begging at all. I think her conversation is assertive, as well as it should be. And as far as her comment about she loves the white boys or she loves the Jewish boys, well, her stepfather and her biological father, I believe she mentioned, are both Jews. And so I don't think that there's anything that extraordinarily unusual about a woman who is attracted to what her father represents, or what her father is, or what she grew up with, or what her mother has exposed her to. So that's my that is my commentary about the comments that have been made about Katie. The other aspect is the situation with Robin and her husband. He's not interested in marrying her. And I think she understands that he's not interested in remarrying her. They've been divorced for 3 years. Her children appear to be 5 or younger, which means that when her children were still in diapers, they were getting divorced. And she has said that they were getting divorced because of infidelity. Now, when you're husband divorces you or your marriage crumbles and your children are in diapers, and it's because of fidelity, he was probably cheating on you during your pregnancies too. And I think Giselle has also had to face that as well. She was going through a divorce. Her children, I think, were 2 years old and 1 year old, but regardless, they were still toddler age. And so and also, Giselle happened to, her ex-husband has probably 3 baby mamas and an ex-wife. There's 2 baby mamas that have made themselves known by going into court to negotiate terms with him. So there's 2 that, are on record. But if there's 3, that's just who she chose. But she's made it clear that she's not reconciling. So I think that with Robin's situation, it's unfortunate that she's willing to be the live-in jump off. And I understand about co-parenting, and it is easier if you're both in the same house to co-parent. But I think you can still live in the same house and not be offering yourself sexually to a man who doesn't want to commit to you as a husband. But that's her decision to make. She's in her mid-30s. That's something for her to decide. But the new conversation about moving away with a man who really hasn't committed to you, as a husband who isn't interested in remarriage, it was very interesting to see the scene where she had on her wedding dress and the ladies were giggling about it. But when he walked out of the room, his comment was, "Get rid of it." I think that's so interesting. If you are madly in love with a woman, your wedding day probably would be one of the fondest days of your life and one of the days that you look upon as being one of the happiest days of your life. And that wedding dress to me would kind of represent that day. And so for his response to be, "Get rid of it," that seeing her in that wedding dress didn't evoke any type of emotion in him whatsoever that was evident on camera. I think that's just very telling. And I think that she really needs to understand that a man can love his children deeply and not want to remarry you and not be in love with you and not believe he can ever be in love with you again. And I think a lot of women, if they see that a man really loves his children, is really focused on being there for his children, somehow that creates a hope within some women to think that, well, maybe we'll have what we used to have, or maybe he'll feel committed to me again. When I just think that sometimes it's okay to just admit that he feels deeply committed to his own children and not to you. It's never a good idea for a woman to move and to uproot her career, change her lifestyle, to live with a man who isn't going to marry her and who isn't going to be committed. And it's very difficult for wives to bounce back from infidelity, just because it is so dishonoring and so disrespectful. In Giselle's case, her ex-husband was not just cheating, but when you're cheating, having unprotected sex in this era of HIV/AIDS, that's just cheating on a whole nother level. You don't know what you're bringing home to your wife, to the person you've pledged your life to. So it's just cheating on another level when you're having unprotected sex and you're a husband, and that's just adding another element of putting your own spouse's life at risk. So for Giselle to make the decision that she's not reconciling is a good one. And, it shows that she values herself and believes that there's something out there for her. But here's the other thing. Giselle is in her early 40s. There are a lot of accomplished men who are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, late 30s. And they're often marrying women who are 10 years, 15 years younger. So it's just not that common for a woman in her 40s to have an expectation that she would be at the top of the of the list for an accomplished man who's in his 40s and 50s. And I think Giselle is aware of that. And I think that that's why some women become very, very appearance conscious, because they realize that there's a lot of competition for the men out there who are accomplished and who are interested in marriage. So I think those are the comments that I wanted to make about the women and their relationships. There's really nothing to say about Cherise, Cherie. She grew up in Baltimore. She may have grown up fatherless, who knows, but she's willing to accept a situation where her children have an absent father. And probably women who accept that grew up fatherless themselves. So not much to say there. Thank you for watching, and keep tuning in and give some comments in the comment section on the issues that I've mentioned.